How are you, Mr. President?
Fine, just fine, thank you.
How are you? So good to see you.
From the embassy. Okay.
What concessions has Russia offered up thus far to get to the point where you're closer to peace?
Stopping the war, taking the whole country. Pretty big concession.
This is my video update on this Friday afternoon, April the 25th. Coming to you from Limassol, Cyprus. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with Witkoff in Moscow. Trump's envoy for everything, it seems, the real Secretary of State, Steve Witkoff. He arrived in Moscow. He is going to be meeting with Putin, Dmitriev, and many other Russian officials. It's very clear that Witkoff likes the Russian president and he likes the team that he's meeting with, and it's very clear when you look at the videos of Witkoff greeting everybody that the Russians and Russian President Putin also respects Witkoff. I think that's pretty obvious from the videos that we have. But the same day that Witkoff is in Moscow, we had what appears to be a terrorist attack in Moscow. And I say appears to be because it happened today and we're still getting information as to what exactly occurred. But from what we know, a Russian military general was assassinated in a car bombing. And from what I read, the general was in one car and he was driving by some parked cars, and there appears to have been a bomb in one of the parked cars, and it was detonated remotely, killing the Russian military official. So we've had assassinations of Russian military personnel, of journalists, of civilians in Moscow and in St. Petersburg and other cities and areas in Moscow. And it has always come back to Ukraine, to the SBU and military intelligence, Budanov and all of these guys. And my guess would be that once we get some more information, the results of whatever investigation is taking place in Russia will come back to Ukraine. That would be my guess. Which means that as Witkoff is arriving in Moscow to talk peace, there are forces that want to sabotage the peace talks. That's the message that's being sent. Bloomberg actually put out an article talking about sabotaging the peace talks. They put out this BS article because Bloomberg's good at the BS, saying that Witkoff is traveling to Russia to meet with Putin so that he could demand that Putin accept the terms in the Kellogg plan about Ukraine being allowed to build up its military, to continue to build up its military and purchase weapons and stuff like that, which is a huge Russian red line in the negotiations that are taking place. But according to Bloomberg, Witkoff is going to demand this of Russia, which is nonsense, absolute nonsense. Why would you send Witkoff to Moscow so that he can demand from Putin to accept Ukraine building up its military if there were to be some sort of an agreement. It makes no sense. Why would you send Witkoff to do that? Nonsense. But there you go, trying to sabotage the possible peace negotiations between the United States and Russia. The good vibes, the positive vibes between Witkoff and Putin and Dmitriev and Russia. That's what this is all about, trying to sabotage the positive vibes. Anyway, let's see, where are we? Where are we? So yesterday, it's a nice statue. Yesterday was supposed to be the meeting between Prime Minister, my precious Schmigel, and Scott Bessent to talk about the minerals deal. That never happened. I don't think it happened. Schmigel was supposed to fly to the United States and he was supposed to meet with Bessent and they were supposed to sign the minerals deal. What happened? I don't know what happened. The rare earth minerals deal, where Ukraine is going to give up all of their resources in perpetuity to the United States. Yeah, that didn't happen, but we did get a report, some news that Ukraine's Marchenko, I believe he's the economics minister or one of the finance ministers, we got a report that I believe he is in the United States, or he's traveling to the United States to continue to negotiate the minerals deal, the never-ending minerals deal. The elusive minerals deal, right? Oh, man. Well, Ukraine's going to need the money. They're going to need to sell something because, according to the Financial Times, they've got 2.6 billion, I believe, in IMF debt that needs to be restructured come May, or else we're looking at a default. And so they're trying to figure out how to restructure the debt, how to make a $600 million dollar payment or something like that. And if they can't figure this all out, then Ukraine is going to be in default. I'm sure that the EU or the UK will float them the money, will get the money to Ukraine in order to avoid any kind of default of the Zelensky regime. So there is escalation between India and Pakistan. And we're talking about two nuclear powers, very dangerous situation. I talked about this in my video update yesterday, and we had an interview of the Pakistani defense minister, and he said something very interesting, which may be signaling at some sort of de-escalation or off-ramp from Pakistan towards India, because he said that the terrorist attack that happened in Kashmir was some sort of a false flag. Pakistan's defense minister has said he has strong suspicions the terrorist attack in Kashmir was a false flag. He also said in the interview, get this was interesting. He said in the interview that Pakistan has been up to no good for the United States with all of these terrorists and these terrorist attacks for many, many decades. Let me find you his exact quote, because I think it's really interesting what he said. Pakistan did dirty work for the West in supporting terrorists, according to the defense minister. His quote is, "We have been doing this dirty work for the United States for about 3 decades, and the West, including Britain, Asif told the British broadcaster on Thursday. He added that this was a mistake and Pakistan has suffered for that. If we had not joined the war against the Soviet Union and the war after 9/11, Pakistan's track record would have been unimpeachable, Asif said. He was referring to the Soviet-Afghan war during which the U.S. covertly supported anti-communist insurgents and the U.S.-led war on terror that was launched by then President George W. Bush following the September 11, 2001 attacks which targeted the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. So an interesting statement from Asif, who is the Pakistani defense minister, and he was speaking with Sky News. Asif admitted that Islamabad did the dirty work for the Western powers for decades. It could be seen, his statement could be seen as a type of way to tell India, look, let's de-escalate the terrorist attack. Yes, Pakistan has these terrorists in Pakistan who are doing the dirty work. This is what he might be signaling, not what I'm saying. This is what he might be signaling to India. Yes, we have these problems. Yes, we've been doing a lot of dirty work. This might have been some sort of false flag. Let's find a way to de-escalate. Maybe that's what he's signaling in this interview with Sky News. Maybe not. We're going to need a couple of more days to see how all of this shakes out. But definitely a dangerous situation, and the timing of it all is very very interesting as well. Makes it all the more interesting, given that you have negotiations between the United States and Russia. You have a tariff war between China and the United States. J.D. Vance was just in India. You have all kinds of business that might be moving from China to India. Apple announced that iPhones might be moving. The entirety of the iPhone production might be moving to India. There's all kinds of stuff going on, right? And then you have this terrorist attack. The beautiful churches of Limassol. Stunning. All right, so that's an update there with India and Pakistan. What is next on the agenda? Did you guys catch Lavrov on Face the Nation? Very good interview from Lavrov on Face the Nation. Very important, very significant that you now have a top Russian official, the foreign minister of the Russian Federation, invited onto United States mainstream media, Face the Nation, mainstream media news. He's invited onto this show to give the Russian perspective, the Russian side of things. We did not have that for 3+ years. There was a complete media embargo on getting the Russian perspective of things, on getting the Russian side of things. And now you finally have Lavrov speaking to the American people that still watch, the people that still watch Face the Nation. I don't know how big their audience is, but still, it's significant. He's on U.S. mainstream media. Very, very significant appearance from Lavrov, and Lavrov was, as always, awesome. He was awesome. He said some very interesting things and very, very supportive of Trump. He was very, very supportive of Trump and Trump's initiatives in trying to get peace in Ukraine. The reporter asked Lavrov, is Witkoff going to Moscow? And should we expect a deal this week? And Lavrov's reply to the reporter was, you don't trust the word of the president of the United States? You don't trust what Trump is telling you? When Trump is telling you that Witkoff is going to be in Moscow and that he's looking for a deal and for peace, you don't trust him? That was pretty sharp from Lavrov. And then Lavrov went on to say that President Trump is probably the only leader on earth, and he said only, he said the only leader on earth who recognized the need to address the root causes that got us into this mess, into this conflict under the Biden administration. And Trump is the only world leader, he said, only world leader to understand the root causes. Very supportive of Trump, Lavrov. But he also said that there are many details that need to be worked out and discussed between the United States and Russia in order to get to some sort of an agreement and some sort of an understanding when it comes to this conflict. So an interesting interview of Lavrov, a significant interview with Lavrov on U.S. mainstream media, and Lavrov was his usual diplomatic, sharp, smart self as he was answering the questions, which were not friendly. I would say not hostile, but definitely not friendly fire from the U.S. media. But Lavrov handled it without any problems, and in English as well. So that was the interview on Face the Nation. And in London, Ursula arrived in London to meet with Stammer so that they can discuss Brexit. Ursula in London, walking like a cowboy. Oh man, like a cowboy on a steel horse I ride. Ursula van der Cowboy. I'm joking around. She is the leader of the free world. We must remember that. The US president is no longer the leader of the free world. That is what von der Leyen implied. She didn't say it, but that was what was implied in an interview. I forgot the publication. I think it was The Atlantic, maybe, but I forgot which publication it was, but it was implied that the US is no longer the leader of the free world, and that must rest on the shoulders of Ursula von der Leyen. Anyway, she came to London. She's meeting with Stammer. What's on the agenda? Well, Project Ukraine, Russia bad, Putin bad, and it's all about Brexit, right? That's what it's about. Rolling back Brexit. And how do you roll back Brexit? Well, you say that the UK and the EU, they must unite. They must get closer together because of Putin. You see, Russia is the Swiss Army knife of the globalists, right? They can use Russia and Putin so that they can further whatever agenda they want. More money to climate change, Putin. Roll back Brexit, Putin. Defense slush fund, Putin. Censorship, Putin. Central bank digital currency, Putin. Putin. That's why Project Ukraine is so important to them, and keeping Russia as an enemy is so important to the globalists. The Swiss Army knife of excuses, that is Russia and Putin. Ursula gave a speech, and she said that, let me get the quote here for you, that Russia tried to exploit our overdependence on cutting us off the gas. Russia tried to exploit our overdependence on cutting us off the gas. And she said that Russia was not successful. Russia cutting the EU off of the gas. It was Russia that did it. They cut the gas off. Russia wasn't Europe and the sanctions and all of that. No, that was Putin. He woke up one day and said, I'm just going to cut off this gas. Why not? Beautiful inside. Wow. Anyway, it's not the first time that we've heard EU officials talk about how Russia cut them off from the gas. I'm sick of making all this money. That's Putin. I'm sick of making all this money. I'm sick of getting gas to the EU. Turn it off. Putin, why are you turning off the gas? Putin, why? What did we do to you? Olaf Scholz has said it. Ursula has said it before in the past as well. I believe Blinken or Sullivan or Biden or one of those guys said it as well, that Russia is weaponizing gas or cutting off the gas from the EU. They always go with that one. Rewriting history. It was Russia. Russia did it. Anyway, that was Ursula in her speech. And Bild is reporting, the German publication Bild, they are reporting, according to their sources in the Zelensky administration, that Ukraine is preparing for the worst in the next couple of weeks. What is the worst? The worst is that the Trump administration will absolutely disengage from Project Ukraine, leave Project Ukraine, walk away, have nothing to do with it anymore. And Ukraine is preparing for a life without U.S. support. And I'm talking complete support, money, weapons, intel, all of it. They are under the belief that the U.S. is going to take everything and walk away. That's what Ukraine officials are telling Bild. What is on paper and what is being signaled to us in the negotiations is unacceptable. Bild wrote on Thursday, quoting a Ukrainian diplomat, "We are preparing for the worst case scenario, and that means an end to U.S. support," another unnamed government insider told the paper. So that's Bild. The Financial Times, they put out an article with the title, "Donald Trump's move on Russia-occupied Crimea forces Europe to choose sides." And you know which side Europe chose? Take a guess, which side did they choose? The US or Ukraine? The US or Ukraine? Which side did they choose? They chose Ukraine. That's what Europe chose. That's what the EU chose. All because of Crimea, right? Crimea has become the issue. There's all kinds of misdirection going on. There really is all kinds of smoke and mirrors and misdirection going on because the media, the Europeans, they've made Crimea into this huge issue, which it wasn't. It wasn't being talked about. It was not one of Russia's terms. And just because the United States, not Europe, not Ukraine, Trump said, we will recognize Crimea. Has nothing to do with Europe, has nothing to do with Ukraine. The United States has the right to say, you know what, we're going to recognize Crimea. And because the Trump administration floated this out there, Crimea has now become this big talking point, which is tearing apart the collective West and is forcing Europe to choose. A lot of smoke and mirrors and misdirection. Crimea was a non-issue in the negotiations. In any negotiations, any talks, Crimea was just a non-issue. The Russians couldn't give one you-know-what about whether the West or the U.S. recognized Crimea. They did not care. Crimea, according to the Russians, was resolved 10 years ago with the referendum. But all of a sudden, it's become the central issue. So something is up. Something is definitely up. A lot of misdirection. Kaya Kallas, she told the AFP, stunning and brave, Kaya Kallas. She told the AFP, Crimea is Ukraine. That was her quote to the AFP. The defiant Kaya Kallas. She's not afraid of Trump. Not afraid of Trump. She's telling the United States and Trump, Crimea is Ukraine, period. Financial Times says, for Europeans, the idea of recognizing Crimea's annexation The first land grab by military force since 1945 is an anathema, since it would eviscerate the rules-based order that has underpinned peace on the continent for generations. Yes, the rules-based order. That rules-based order. Cancel elections in Romania, try to imprison Le Pen. How many sanctions has the EU placed on Turkey since the illegal invasion of Cyprus in 1974? What sanctions package are we on now? The 110th sanctions package against Turkey since 1974? For going against the rules-based order and invading Cyprus? I don't think the EU has placed any sanction packages on Turkey, have they? Actually, Ursula gives them money. Billions and billions and billions. The EU, not only Ursula, Merkel, Juncker, all of these people, billions and billions. And Cyprus is a member of the European Union, unlike Ukraine. Anyway, the hypocrisy of the rules-based order. So that's the Financial Times and the Telegraph. We now move on to the Telegraph, the UK Telegraph. Always telling the truth is the Telegraph. And according to their sources, Macron and Stammer, they're starting to rethink their coalition of the willing, peacekeeper, reassurance forces idea. They are rethinking it. The UK is blaming France. They're saying, you know what? Macron is a flippin' and a floppin'. And it doesn't look like we're going to be able to agree to send forces into Ukraine if there is a ceasefire that's negotiated. And the coalition of the willing looks like it's becoming the coalition of the no more, the coalition of the no more, according to the UK Telegraph. And let me read you a quote here from the UK Telegraph. Sir Keir Starmer and President Macron of France have offered to deploy troops to Ukraine to keep the peace as part of a coalition of the willing. But during talks in London, sources told The Times, not the Telegraph, The Times, there appeared to be a softening of the commitment. The newspaper wrote on Wednesday, a softening of the commitment. My mistake, I was thinking The Telegraph, but it's actually The Times. Same thing. Is it the same thing? No, I think they're two different publications, aren't they? I don't know. I don't know. UK mainstream media. It feels like it's all the same thing. So we move on and let's talk about Trump. And he was in the White House, I believe, meeting with the leader of Norway, right? Yeah, I think so. And he was speaking to the media. And it was Trump at his best, actually. I would say that yesterday was Trump at his best. And the media, they asked Trump, once again, about Project Ukraine. And one of the reporters asked Trump, what concessions is Russia making in all of this negotiation that's taking place? What are the concessions from Russia? And I think Trump gave the perfect answer. The absolute perfect answer. Trump said that the concessions that Russia is making, the one big concession is they are not going to take the whole of the country. They're going to stop taking the whole of Ukraine. That's the concession. A more accurate, more honest, more impactful statement from Trump. That was perfect. Could not have been made a more impactful statement. That was right on point from Trump. You see, every day it's an up and down, right? It's up and down. You never know what's going to happen in this saga. Some days Trump may not be on his A game, but other days he is absolutely on his A game. Some days you think we're close to to a deal or a rapprochement or something significant, and then something happens and it looks like we're not close to a rapprochement or a deal or anything like that. But you know, that's what happens when you cover the news every single day. You cover the ups and the downs. If you do a video every week or every 4 days, then you're able to step back and to get a different view of what happened in the week, for example. And then you can come to a different conclusion because you can report all the days that have passed. And you could probably get a different analysis, but a bigger picture type of analysis. But right now, it's an up and a down. It's up and down when it comes to to this negotiation process in Ukraine. Hey, buddy, how you doing? So that was Trump. We now move on to Romania, where we have some big news, and that is an appeals court in Romania. They overturned the decision to cancel Georgescu, the second round, or was it the first round? The first round of the elections. They overturned that decision, but it looks like that even though the court overturned that decision, the electoral board is just going to ignore the decision from this appeals court, and they're going to continue to push on with the elections without Georgescu, with Georgescu still being banned. We'll see how all of this works out, but there's not much time left. The elections in Romania are coming up very soon, and I don't know if this can work through the courts fast enough in order to try and get the cancellation of Georgescu not only overturned, but to get the electoral board to remove the block on Georgescu. Let me read you what happened here. On Thursday, Judge Alexandru Vasil of the Ploiești Court of Appeal overturned the annulment. According to Hot News, the prosecutor's office attached to the Ploiești Court has filed such an appeal. George Simon, leader of the Alliance for the Union of Romanians party, welcomed the decision as a return to democracy, the constitutional order, in a post on X. He added, however, that the Central Electoral Bureau, which barred Georgescu from running in a planned May vote, ignores it and continues its activity. Yeah, they're ignoring it, the electoral board. That's the problem. So we'll keep an eye out in Romania and see what happens. There's still some hope left, you see? There's always hope, isn't there? I want to cross. Yeah. All right, so one more story and we'll get to our clown world. And this has to do with the ICC. The ICC and Putin. And Italy. Italy, Putin, and the ICC. So we are getting reports from various Italian publications, big Italian publications. They are reporting that the documentation from the ICC to go after Putin, if he were to ever travel to Italy, that the documents never made it to the courts so that they can sign them. And that means that the ICC ruling cannot be enforced in Italy if Putin were to travel to the country. And the newspapers, they are reporting, I believe La Repubblica is one. I'll read you a little bit in a minute. They are reporting that high-level officials in Italy must have known about this, and this was done on purpose, not sending the documents to the court for signature, because they don't have it in for Russia or for Putin, and they would eventually like relations with Russia to be restored. So they did not send the documents to the court on purpose. Those documents were never signed. And that means that if Putin wanted to, not saying that he will, but if he wanted to travel to Italy legally, he can do it. And there is a zero fear from the ICC or an arrest or anything like that. Putin ICC arrest warrant invalid in Italy, local media. The country's Court of Appeal reportedly never processed the document, making it unenforceable. The failure to file the necessary paperwork is not likely to have been the result of an oversight or a coincidence, La Repubblica reported, suggesting instead a political choice. A Corriere della Sera concluded similarly, noting that the warrants for the Russian commanders have also been left invalidated. It wasn't only Putin, it was other Russian officials. Those documents that the ICC said they would get arrested, Putin and other government officials, all the documents of everybody was never sent to the court for signature. And so they're saying this had to have been deliberate. And they're right. Italy. Italy. You see why people love Italy and they love the Italians? They have a way. They have a way of doing things, and it works and it's effective. They want good relations with Russia. They want to restore relations with Russia, and they don't like all of this escalation from the EU. So they find workarounds to get through the warrants and the ICC stuff and all of the globalist things that are forced upon them. All of the Ursula dictates that are forced upon them. The Italians, they find a way. They find a way to bypass all of that stuff. Gotta love it. Got to love it. Limassol, everybody. All right, let's do a clown world, huh? Let's do a clown world, and we can wrap this video up. Of course, today's clown world is the Ben Shapiro interview with the Green Goblin with Zelensky. Oh man, I could not watch the whole thing. I have to be honest. There's no way that I would be able to watch part one, which I believe was almost an hour long. I don't know. It looked like a long part one interview, but it also documents Ben's dangerous trip to Kiev as well. And, and the interview, well, what can you say? Clown world gold. Clown world freaking gold. One of the segments that I saw on X, that's what I did. I saw all the segments. I could not watch the whole thing in its entirety. But one of the segments is about the money that was given to Zelensky. And where did it all go? Where did all the money, the hundreds and hundreds of billions that the US gave to Ukraine, where did it all go? And Zelensky, he said to Ben Shapiro that every US dollar sent to Ukraine is carefully tracked and fully accounted for. I'm not disputing how much the US gave us. It's not 200 billion, it's 100, and it was used for the battlefield. That is what Zelensky told Shapiro. Oh man. We've tracked every cent, every cent. Hey, Podolyak has a notebook and he writes down every cent, every penny. We give it back to you in an IOU. We IOU, United States of America. Here you go, 100 billion IOU, we're good for it. Oh my God. It's an interesting PR play from the Daily Wire and from Ukraine, from the collective West, the globalists. The globalists and the Daily Wire teamed up in this PR stunt. That's what it was. That's what it is, a PR stunt, man. Oh boy. Yeah, I could not watch the whole thing. Impossible. Impossible. That would be a form of torture, watching that interview in its entirety from start to finish. That would be a form of torture. Actually, I think that that governments and various other entities are going to actually use the interview as a way to get information from people, right? Yep, they're gonna have someone in a room, like the police are gonna detain someone, and they're gonna have them in a room, and they're gonna say, "Tell us where the money is. Tell us where the money is." "No, I'm never gonna tell you where the money is." Okay, get out the recording of Shapiro-Zelensky. No, not Shapiro-Zelensky. Okay, I'll tell you where the money is. I stole it. Yeah, it's in the safe over there. Oh my God. All right, everybody, that's the video. theduran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and X. Go to the Duran shop, pick up some merch like what I'm wearing in this video update. There is a link in the description box down below. Take care.